Easy listening in the background. That's how I get down. So the question for today is, what's good in the hood? As for me, Rylan Branch, and decided to bring you into my hood so you can enjoy the experience. So like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz says, no place like home. So we're in the backyard. So anyways, real quick, or as quick as possible, I'm gonna bring Energy Conservation Week to a close on Friday, make sure I got the right day, March the 9th at 9:48 a.m. on a about 86 degrees winter's day in March. Um, Another warm day that we're blessed with in Southern California for whatever reason. So I decided to continue on with the process and just enjoy it. So this video is basically to bring Energy Conservation Week to a close and just observe the process and share what I came up with you. And basically, it's just a matter of kind of pulling back some, not talking too much, not listening too much, and just kind of staying to myself because when you conserve, it kind of brings you back to the point where it all started, which is your own self. So that's what I did, and came to some interesting conclusions, and I wanted to just share some with you while we got the time. So number one is I got back to a question that I used to ask myself quite frequently, but kind of got out of the habit. And that question is, do I have something better that I could, would, or should be doing at this exact moment? And I think that's a good question to ask because what it showed me is that number one, if you don't ask that question, or even if you did or do or would or should have better things to do, chances are you're not going to do it. I'm not going to do it because it's not in your mind. It's not in your consciousness, I guess is the best way to say it. So first things first, I decided to ask the question, and then you have to follow up with what it is that you could, should, or would be doing that's better to do with your time. So that was the focus for this week, and I came up with some interesting conclusions. With the social media thing, although it's popular and tends to be a thing to do, what I tend to notice over the years is that, well, kind of inundates you with other people's problems and other people's needs. Like everyone has their own situation that they might be dealing with. And I guess the popular thing is to share. But from my perspective, it's kind of like if you got your own problems or challenges, I guess is a better way to say it, to deal with. Well, having someone else add theirs to your plate, well, that's like a bigger plate of challenges. And I just look at my plate for solutions, easiness, easy listening, like what we're experiencing right now. And I like to keep that on my plate, but that's just a different perspective coming from me, Rylan Branch, RB. And looking at it from that perspective, I said, well, yeah, that's kind of cool. That's a good way to look at it. So why don't I just focus and concentrate my energies on that? So that was number one. And number two, when I am on the internet, I tend to be spending my time, majority of my time, kind of just studying and learning and increasing my aptitude and applying certain things that I learn. And I do that because I feel like that makes a person better or worse, I don't know, better at, probably so. Like you can give yourself a higher value by being smarter and having a greater capacity to help others, and the internet is full of content and information that helps a person to achieve that goal. So that's generally what I tend to spend my time on the internet doing, and the information that I might share with you, or it can be my own thoughts and opinions and analysis. or other people's thoughts and opinions and analysis that I find valid, but I find my own opinions and thoughts the most ideal. I mean, I'm just weird like that. So that's kind of a result of what you're seeing in front of your face right now. I like what I have to say the best. You can call that what you will. So generally, if it's a better thing to do, I would say, yeah, you can focus on bettering yourself. That's always a good thing to do because it increases your value. Once again, I'm talking to myself, so when I say you, I mean me. But if you get it, well, that's you too. So that's number one, or actually number two, following up on number three. Number three is I had a chance to kind of go back to childhood and reflect on some things that I used to hear, but kind of was at odds with what I was being told. I guess I'm just outside of the box person like that. But one of them was a mark that I used to always get on my report card. Not always, but quite a few times, enough to take notice, especially from my parents. And the mark was uses time unwisely. That's the mark on your report card. Uses time unwisely. And it used to kind of throw me off because I would always kind of say to myself without saying it, I didn't have the words, but just my internal feeling, and I'm old enough to put in the words now, would be to the effect of how could it be an unwise use of my time if I'm doing the things that I want to do? That would be like somebody saying the wise thing to do is what we want you to do, and if it's other than what you want to do, well, the wise choice is to do what we want you to do, which is in conflict with what you want to do. But I guess that's a part of growing up because once again, you gotta know what you want to do. So I always find what I want to do to be enjoyable, and I find that to be the wise choice. So once again, that's what we're dealing with right now. And over the years, as a growing up experience, there's always been, well, not always, but a lot of times a conflict with people who believe a certain kind of way that may be different. Like, yeah, exactly, and blank, 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 and this is why you don't have this and you don't have that, and just personal challenges that once again I have to turn to myself to resolve. And I say something like, well, interestingly enough, another part of childhood is that I happened to grow up in an area, say about 8 square miles away from Disneyland, which is the happiest place on earth. And the way my mind works would be to say that Walt Disney, who Disneyland or Disney World or Disney Company was named after, like this is Branchland. Disneyland is Disneyland, and that's the happiest place on earth. I always kind of put it together in my mind that in order for that to exist, it's kind of like Walt Disney would have to be doing what he felt was enjoyable, as opposed to what someone else says was the wise choice for him to be doing with his time. But maybe it was a bit of a lucky gamble because it just so happens that there was a few people that were in agreement with what he chose to do with his time and what he found enjoyable because, well, they find it enjoyable too. I find it enjoyable. And I see quite a few people, especially these days, lined up and paying a pretty hefty sum to enjoy what he thought about. But that's kind of thinking outside the box some, but I just want to share because, Lifestyle Magazine, and we keep things thorough and intimate and have real discussion. So at the end of it, energy conservation, well, I've learned that when you kind of conserve, it kind of allows you to focus in on what's most important to you. Like the experts say, if you're stressed, it's because you're paying too much attention to that which is not important. And if you're failing, it's because you're not paying enough attention to that which is. So conserving energy for this week kind of helped me get a better grasp on what is important to me. And what is important to me is me, and what I find to be an enjoyable experience, which is what I'm sharing with you right now. So I guess we're at the 10:30 mark, and since there was no set allot time, well, we can go ahead and bring it to a close because in the next couple hours, I assume that I'll probably be getting out and seeing what ventures I want to take advantage of today due to the weather. And what more do I have to say? Stay tuned. Yeah, we'll say that. Stay tuned. Deuces.